ERi-TV news broadcast crew and I, Delayed Sahaya, are now ready for your daily news briefing at 10:30 local time. But first, let us catch up with the major headlines. Minister Usman Saleh deliberation at non-aligned movement summit. Timgat celebrated nationwide. Belarus to add nuclear weapons to defense plan. Cholera outbreak in Zambia causes more than 400 deaths. On our local news, Mr. Usman Saleh, Minister of Foreign Affairs, who is attended the 19th summit of heads of the state and government of the non-aligned movement in Kampala, Uganda, delivered a statement highlighting Eritrea's stance. In his statement, Minister Usman said that the 19th summit of the movement is underway under a well-timed theme deepening cooperation for shared global affluence. Humanity is going through a pluralist global peace and security, as well as a dividing social, economic, and environmental crisis requiring for genuine cooperation and renewed commitment. Minister Usman underlined that inter- and intra-state wars, geopolitical rivalries, socioeconomic inequalities, and adverse impact of climate change and pandemic are posing unprecedented ramification on the lives of millions who are already deprived of marginalized in the global south. The underlying cause of this interlocking and intertwined crisis, Minister Usman went on to say that they attributed to multiple factors, that the systemic failure of the existing global governance architecture remain at a core, guided by ill premises rule-based international order. The global governance architecture has been and continuing to foment conflicts, deprive societies and monopolize resources, and abrogate the principles of the international law and the UN Charter. Minister Osman said that Eritrea is not spared of the continued viciousness and injustice of the dysfunctional international order and hegemonic of unipolarity at a time where most African countries were gaining their independence. Minister Usman went on to say that the people of the Eritrea were doomed to be answered under the yoke of the Ethiopian imperial regime for the sole purpose of the U.S. misguided foreign policy of favoritism of its anchor state. Even decades after it had won liberation and independence, Minister Usman underscored that Eritrea has been and is continuing to verify by those erroneous and nefarious policies. For almost a decade, the country and its people were subjected to unwarranted U.S. Security Council sanctions based on fabricated allegation, and still Eritrea is further sustaining the illegal unilateral sanctions imposed by the U.S. and the EU. Noting that still several non-aligned member states are victims of such outrageous Western foreign policy tools, Minister Osman urged for its illicit and arbitrary measures to categorically reject by the movement and immediately announced that they are in contravention of the U.S. Charter, principles of the international law, and multilateralism. Concluding his remark, Minister Usman Saleh reiterated Eritrea's call up on the non-aligned member state on mobilized their untapped resources and demonstrate the rigorous resolve of the forge and global order predicated and equal and full participation of all members of state as posed by the unilateralism and the rules-based order. For that, Minister Osman stressed on the non-aligned members of the state need to reassert their peculiar and historical responsibilities to uphold the sacrosanct principles of the equality and respect of sovereignty and the political independence of all nations and peoples as enriched in the UN Charter and Bandung principles. Timgat Epiphany was celebrated today across the country in a colorful manner. During the celebration in Asmara at the holy water site around Bahti Maskaram Square, a prayer service was conducted and it was led by His Holiness Abuna Petros, Archbishop of the Eritrean Tawahedo Orthodox Church, and joined by other archbishops. The celebration was attended by archbishops, representatives from offices of the Patriarch, representative of all churches in Asmara, senior government officials, members of diplomatic community, and number of the faithful. Teacher Simon Bayene from the office of the Patriarch gave a detailed briefing on the historical background and the deep meaning of the Timkat holiday. Teacher Simon paid tribute to martyrs who have enabled us to celebrate national holidays in peace and elation, and wished for peace and stability for Eritrean people. After the end of the ceremony, the Ark Covenants were returned to their respective churches, accompanied by the faithful. The 3-hour ceremony was broadcast live on ERi-TV and Hafash, Eritrea. Nationals of both within the country and abroad have contributed over 230,000 nakfa to augment the Martyrs' Trust Fund and support the families of martyrs. According to the reports from the Ministry of Labor and Social Welfare, nationals residing abroad organized under a group Hafash Yinkah Yiwadab Yita'ataq contributed 116,959 nakfa. And sisters Tsigena Gilazgi donated additional 20,000 nakfa towards the Martyrs' Trust Fund. Similarly, a national residing in Germany contributed $720 in support of one family of martyr. Dear viewers, we'll be back with the international news shortly. Stay tuned. A revised defense doctrine will clarify the position of Belarus on the use of the Russian nuclear weaponry stationed on its soil, the country's defense minister Viktor Krening has said. The lieutenant general made a remark on Wednesday as he spoke to reporters after a meeting of the National Security Council. It was not immediately clear that exactly document will identify the regard of the nuclear weaponry given the control over the munition remains with Russia. Moscow stationed nuclear weapons in Belarus last year following repeated requests from Minsk. The Belarusian leadership cited aggressive Western policies and the perceived threat posed by the U.S. nuclear weaponry hosted by several of the Washington's European allies. Russia, for its part, has signaled that it is ready to use any weaponry at its disposal to protect Belarus should the latter be attacked. The new doctrine will also assert that Belarus is a peaceful state. At the same time, it will clearly name the threats the country is facing, the minister said. In recent years, Belarus has experienced tensions with its neighbors, and its ties to the EU members, Poland, have arguably soared the most. The position was openly backed by Poland and by the EU as a whole, and the effort continuing even after its attempt to unseat President Alexander Lukashenko immediately failed. On our last news, Zambia is revolving from its major cholera outbreak that has killed more than 400 people and infected more than 10,000, leading authorities to order schools across the country to remain shut after the end of the year holiday. A large soccer stadium in the capital city has been converted into a treatment facility. The Zambian government is embarking on the mass vaccination program and saying to improving clean water to 0.4 million liters a day to communities that are affected across the southern African nation. The National Disaster Management Agency has been mobilized. The outbreak in Zambia began in October and 412 people have died and 10,413 cases have been recorded according to the latest count on Wednesday from the Zambia Public Health Institute. The government body has deals with the health emergencies. The health ministry said cholera has been detected in nearly half of the country's districts and 9 out of 10 provinces. A nation of about 20 million people has been recorded more than 400 cases a day. Dear viewers, we've come to the end of tonight's news. Let's have a quick recap of the headlines. Minister Saleh deliberately cholera outbreak in Zambia caused more than 400 deaths. That is all our local and international news viewers. Thanks for watching and have a good night.